This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and CEO of Alianza Minerals, Mr. Jason Weber. Jason, how are you this afternoon?
Oh, I'm doing very well, thanks. And you?
I'm well. We have gold hovering near the 1500 mark. You had some news today I want to chat about regarding the high grade KRL gold property. It's a good time to be discovering different vein sets and an extension of what looks like a trend, right? You had some news today regarding the 2019 exploration program. I would love to get the details from you.
Yeah, it was. It's a neat little project, KRL, isn't it? It's one of these. It's been known for having narrow, high-grade gold veins that, for a long time, weren't thought to be terribly relevant until the Valley of the Kings discovery and the work Pretium's done to put their mine in production just show that sometimes these actually do really relate to a significant gold deposit, and that's not to say that the KRL is a Valley of the Kings lookalike by any stretch, but certainly that was our thinking coming in. And with the program we did, there was a fairly concentrated area of gold bearing quartz veins that had been identified previously. And our work this year, we were able to find more of this veining 100 meters to the southeast of the sort of the main showing area, and that's one sample ran 35.7 grams per ton gold, and another ran 9.25 grams per ton gold. So that was really exciting to see that they were occurring over a larger area. And what we really noticed, and this is geologists that were on the ground. I'm not going to take credit for this interpretation. It certainly was these guys in the field. There's a structural corridor that hosts the main showing area, and it's about 800 meters wide. And almost cutting perpendicular across that is a contact between two different rock units. And it seems like mineralization, or at least the veins, are somehow associated with that contact. So now that gives us sort of an 800-meter long window or corridor zone, whatever you want to call it, that we can look for these veins and sort of focus our efforts. And that's a good length. I mean, I'm not going to say that there's a vein that's 800 meters long, but I think we're going to find a scenario where we could see multiple veins over that kind of width of an area. So that's the target. That's how it sets up for next year. We're still chewing on the data at this point, but we'll be based on what we can pull out of our compilation of the old data and what we collected this year. We'll set a program for next year to focus in on this stuff. And then there's also some geochem anomalies that are sort of offset from that don't have an explanation that we're going to have to look at as well. So fair bit to do there. Still a lot to sink our teeth into.
Right. You mentioned, and it bears highlighting the importance of getting out in the field on the ground and just doing good old fashioned work, right? There's so many geologists and so many CEOs that just want to sit behind a keyboard and try to interpret the data and project forward without actually getting out there and putting the work in. So kudos to you and your team for getting out there. I do want to provide a little bit of context. You took rock samples up to 100 meters southeast of the KRL showing that returned, I think, 9.2 grams per ton and 35.7 grams per ton gold. And it was important to me that this came from visibly, this is how you described it in the release, visibly unmineralized white and smoky quartz veins. Can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, it's kind of an odd thing to write in a news release when you're talking about high-grade gold, but right. That is the interesting thing about these veins. They are unremarkable when you look at them. And, at one point we thought maybe it was the presence of pyrite or galena or chalcopyrite in very, very small amounts. But if you saw those, that was a gold indicator. And on these samples we took this year, we didn't see that. So it's quite benign looking material, but it can run high grade gold.
Excellent. A bit more context. You took a total of 30 rock samples and 358 soil samples for the 2019 program. What do you have in store for 2020, Jason? I know you mentioned you're still awaiting some data and putting that together, but do you have an idea of what the 2020 approach will be like?
Without talking to the field guys, in the back of my head, I sort of look at it as going back to do some detailed work along this 800-meter corridor, maybe encompassing the lithologic contact we see there, and just see if we can see any relationships there that would explain, give us a vector or anything like that. So that would be a detailed mapping program, sampling, and I guess a bit of prospecting in there too. The other aspect I mentioned is the soil geochemical anomalies that have been identified. There's a few sort of off to the east especially, but there are some down the slope off to the west that remain somewhat unexplained. So I think we'd want to do some detailed work in there. Maybe there are veins up in there that we just haven't seen that may be giving us that geochem response. And I think just looking at it, my guess is we try to get to drill targets fairly quickly, not to say that we necessarily will drill it next year, but I think we'd want to get to the point we've identified some drill targets and go from there. I think that's in an ideal world, we would be drilling it next year, though. That would be the hope.
Excellent. Jason, thank you for that thorough update. Appreciate the time, and we will chat soon.
Thank you, Gerardo.